Hi, I'm Kevin and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to talk about pulleys and how they can be useful to hang food in bear country. So hanging food in bear country can be challenging at the best of times. There's lots of controversy about should you hang your food in a tree or not. I believe that you can, and I'm going to cover that more explicitly in another video. But one of those ways that you can help yourself create a proper bear hang is to use pulleys. Pulleys are very, very effective. I bring them on most of my trips, especially when I have more food to lift. Typically on a short backpacking trip, your food bag is probably going to look like this. 2-5 pounds of food, depending on how you pack and if you have dry ingredients. This is relatively easy to lift just by throwing a rope over a branch and pulling it up. As the load gets heavier though, this is my food barrel for a week trip. I find that most of my food is dehydrated and it fits inside this 20-liter olive barrel, and that's a pretty good container for a canoe trip. That will last me a week, but this is about 12 pounds and it becomes difficult to hoist. That's for a solo person for 1 week. What if you got 3 or 4 people going for 2 weeks? Your food is going to become a real problem. And I often use pulleys to help me get my food up into the tree. So let's start with a simple food bag over a branch, and then let's go to heavier loads and see how we can make this work. So while shooting this video, I did have a bit of a mishap. I kind of suspected it might happen. So today we're going to use this branch above my head right here. It's a dead branch, at least dead on the end, and it might not be the most suitable branch for actual use, but this is YouTube and there's no leaves on that branch, so you can see it and the sun is shining on it, so that's the one I'm going to use today. I would recommend that you look for a branch that is a little more alive than that one. And then it did happen. Oh, down goes the branch! I thought that might happen. I'll have to go find another suitable branch in the sunlight. Maybe there's one over there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run through this video as I was doing it, and when that mishap occurs, I'm going to just switch to a different tree and repeat the whole process. So it's just a really good reminder not to trust a dead branch to hang your food, because a bear can take advantage of that. A bear can climb the tree, get on that branch, probably break the branch, come down with the food, and then it's got your food. This can happen even with a living branch, and so you want to make sure your branch is sturdy enough. And also you can hurt yourself when trying to use a dead branch. If it breaks, it can come down on you and cause some harm. So this is the rock bag that came with my ULA Equipment bear bag kit. The rock bag is extremely useful to throw a rope over a tree limb. I highly recommend using a rock bag because it can be very challenging to tie a rope properly to a rock so that it doesn't come loose. But if you have a pulley, and this one's got a bit of heft to it, you can also use the pulley to get your rope over a tree branch. Let's do that. First, I'm going to tie a quick little bowline knot to the pulley. So that worked out really well. I've removed the pulley for now, and I'm just going to tie the food bag onto this rope and hoist it. So we'll start with the light food bag, then we'll go to a heavier food barrel. So that food bag lifts no problem. It's a relatively light load. Let's try a heavier load. So now let's try my food barrel. This has enough food to last me a week. It's about 12 pounds. So I can lift this load. It's a bit of stress on my hands, but it's manageable. I can still tie this end to a tree somewhere, but it's starting to get at the limit of what I can lift. The friction over the branch is starting to become enough that it's a bit of a challenge to pull up. So let's try yet a heavier load and see what happens. But we already know what happens, don't we? Oh, down goes the branch. So there is my new branch. It is not ideal for YouTube anyway because there's a lot of brush in the way, but it's actually the kind of branch you'd go for in a real camping situation. It's alive, it's thick, and it looks pretty good. We'll tolerate the brush for the video. It's already clear that with a larger branch, there's a lot more friction on the rope. I have to jerk the rope backwards to let the pulley fall. The weight of the pulley isn't enough to bring it down by itself. So I've got my rope over this new branch. Let's try that initial lighter load and see how it hoists. Yeah, so I can lift that bag no problem. There's very little friction over that branch. So again, let's try this food barrel, which weighs 12 pounds. It represents enough food for me for a week-long canoe trip. The increased weight here is working with that thicker branch to make it even more difficult than with the first tree. So I can certainly lift this weight too without a pulley, but it is becoming a little challenging. It's a little bit tight on my hands, and it's a bit of a struggle. I can do it, but it's a bit of a struggle to overcome the friction on that branch. Now let's try this heavier barrel, which is about 25 pounds and represents enough food for 2 people for a full week of canoe tripping. So I'm a relatively strong guy and pretty heavy, so I am able to get that up there, but that is a challenge. That is a lot of stress on my hands, on my arms, and I'm gonna have a challenge tying this rope off. So let's do the same thing, but let's try and use a pulley and see if it works a little bit better. So that took a couple minutes to get set up, but what I've got is the pulley hoisted in the air with another rope through the pulley before I lifted the pulley. And now I've got the rope through the pulley tied to my heavy food barrel. Let's try and lift that barrel with the pulley. So that is much easier to lift and quite easy to hold. There's a bit of weight there for sure, but the pressure on my hands is a lot less, and it's much easier to lift that heavier load. Now, if you don't have trees with proper branches, you can also use the 2-tree method for hanging your food. This works pretty well, and I've often used pulleys with this method to use one rope to suspend multiple meals. The challenge is that bears can certainly climb trees, and they're pretty acrobatic and can even climb ropes that are suspended horizontally. So one of the really good things about pulleys is the food can be hung a little bit lower and keep it a little bit better protected from the bear. So here we are, we're at my kids' swing set. I've taken down the swing. And I want to use this setup because it allows me to show you the whole picture here. I want to show you a technique of using 2 pulleys to lift an even heavier load. Now this is not high enough for an actual bear hang, but it will let me show you the whole mechanism. Okay, I filled that barrel up full of water. That's 20 liters of water, should be 20 kilograms, which is 44 pounds of water. Let's call it 45 pounds given the weight of the barrel. That's an awful lot of food. If that was your weight on a trip, that could feed 4 people for a week. Now let's see if we can use pulleys to lift it. So I've got the rope through one of the brackets that hold up the swing, and the first thing I'm going to do is attach a pulley with a carabiner to my weight, my barrel. And then I'm going to tie an alpine butterfly knot in the main line here. I'll show you how I do that. So first, just take the rope in the palm of your hand and wrap it over twice. Then take that first wrap closest to your fingers and tuck it underneath all the other ones, pull it through, and then straighten the knot out. That's an alpine butterfly knot. That knot is not going to slip, and it's going to be very easy to untie later. So I'm just finishing up that knot, and then I'm going to attach a pulley with a carabiner to the loop of the alpine butterfly knot. Now I'm going to take the end of that long rope and I'm going to pass it through the pulley attached to the barrel. And then I'm going to pass it through the pulley that's attached to the alpine butterfly knot. That's ultimately going to be the part of the rope that I raise the barrel with. So I'm going to pull that right through. And then I'm going to hoist that upper pulley. And then I'll secure it. Okay, everything's ready. Let's try and lift this very heavy load. It's still a challenge, but I can certainly lift it. So there you go. That is not high enough for a real bear hang, but it demonstrates the principle of how you can turn 2 pulleys and 1 rope into a block and tackle system and lift a food load that is extremely heavy. That, again, that's 45 pounds. That represents an awful lot of food for a number of people on a long trip. All right, guys, thanks a lot for watching. I hope you got something out of this video. If you did, please hit like, share, and subscribe. As always, have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.